Hello and welcome. It's the Puckleheads, and we're back. Couldn't get rid of us so easily. Marcus White, Connell McNeil is here as well. We're going to preview all things World Cup of Hockey. Connell, it's been a little while since we've done this, but it's nice to get back in the swing of things.
Absolutely, I'm excited to get going here. We had some fun in the off season there. I think a little bit more fun than we expected, even with those crazy trades. Rest of the summer kind of went accordingly. A few trades here and there, a couple nice signings once in a while. But hockey season's right around the corner, and I guess this is it's a little bit different this year. Not necessarily the typical training camp, if you will. Whether coaches are happy about that, I'm not really sure. But hey, we get to see these guys going full speed pretty quickly, Marcus. So it should be a lot of fun here.
Yeah, we get to wet the palate with some intense games to start off. Before we preview our picks for the World Cup of Hockey, I think we should address the elephant in the room, and that's whether or not we should care about this tournament. A lot of players have dropped out due to various nagging injuries. Yuri Hudler was not originally asked, then was asked to play and ignored the phone calls of the Czech Republic.
He's apparently what happened? He ignored them.
He ignored their calls. Yeah, he just went straight, put him to voicemail. The agent was like, yeah, he doesn't want to play for you guys. Sorry.
Believe it or not, Yuri's not at home. Please at the beep.
So I guess, Connell, the first question, should we – I mean, obviously we care about this, but, what should we make of this tournament? You have two continental teams that are kind of contrived and kind of forced. It's in the preseason. Cynically, you could say it's a bit of a cash grab, but what are your thoughts on it?
I think there's a part of me that just can't bring it to myself to care as much as if it was an Olympics, Marcus, because the Olympics is the most grand stage, and we've seen some great Olympics, especially the last 2 years of the hockey there. Honestly, if it wasn't for the two almost makeshift teams, I actually would probably care more. But those teams, that's so tough for me to – because, there's so many guys in the U23 guys, I think I wonder if it's going to be hard for them to be able to play against their countries, so to speak. But, and I say that now, but at the end of the day, when U.S. plays Canada, I'm going to be rooting my butt off for sure. It'll be fun. I wonder how the pace of hockey is going to be, being that it's September. But, I mean, some of those exhibition games are fantastic to watch. So I think at first I really didn't care, but now it's really starting to grow on me, and I certainly will be watching and glued to the TV because it's a drug, if anything else, for me. So
I'm in the same boat. I think I'm just excited to see hockey again. I think my rooting interest for Team USA is as low as I can remember it, and we'll touch on that. And when we get to previewing the specific teams, I want to talk about a great piece I saw on Winging It in Motown this week about kind of the issues that I have and a lot of people have with rooting for the American team. But I think there's a lot of intriguing storylines. I think even the contrived teams are pretty intriguing somewhat. I mean, with Team Europe, as we'll touch on more extensively, you basically have a mixing pot of also Rans and Anze Kopitar, because they so desperately wanted Kopitar to have a team in this tournament that they made Team Europe. At least that's how it seems. And then you have Team North America, which is, as talented as anyone in this group. There's 16 first-round picks on this roster.
Yeah.
I haven't cross-referenced with the other rosters, but I'd imagine that's as high as any in this tournament. So I think my rooting interest for my country isn't as high as it would be in an Olympics, but I think my neutral fan interest is almost higher because the tournament's a little more absurd.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That makes sense to me. Yeah.
And, it being on North American ice, we get to see, players in their quote unquote natural habitat. They're not playing on the bigger ice surface like they did in Sochi. So that'll be interesting. But I mean, like you said, hockey's hockey, and it's great to have it back and great to be talking about some high stakes games. So let's get right into it. Let's start breaking down these teams. We're going to go by in order of what we think are the best rosters. There is one disagreement, but otherwise Connell and I agree in our order of all 8 teams. And we start with what we think is the worst team in the tournament. And we mentioned them with Yuri Hudler, and that's the Czech Republic.
Yeah, Mark, it's just not a strong group. And I think there's it's almost bittersweet to me, because you think about the Czech movement that came into the 90s and really engulfed hockey with Dominik Hasek and, of course, Jaromír Jágr and all those guys. And then guys along the way, like, good players like Marty Straka and whatnot. it's as if that movement didn't get as much of the youth in the Czech Republic as you would like, almost, because in recent years they haven't made it to medal rounds in the World Juniors. I believe I read since 03 or 04 or something like that. It's been a long time for them. They haven't been successful anywhere at the national stage after winning the gold medal in 1998, the first time the NHLers were allowed to play, which shows you how talented that team were. They're just not strong anywhere. There's nowhere where you could say they even have a strength, Marcus. I mean, overall weak group. Guys like Hansel and Frolik. I mean, Thomas Hertl will be nice to see, David Krejci, but other than that, it's not that strong. Jakub Voracek, another strong player up front. Their goalies, I think, are definitely to be worrisome. Peter Mrazek, who was developed, I think, nicely in the Detroit Red Wings system there. Michael Neuwirth, Pavlik. Their defense is almost next to none. Gudas and all those guys in the back end. Polak, who is, a sixth defenseman at best in the NHL. They have basically their whole blue line is a bunch of fifth and sixth defensemen. And so, I mean, you're not going to win any games like that.
They're more so than I think any other team in the tournament. I think they find themselves kind of asking, man, what would have happened had we had our full strength roster? Yager's not playing.
No.
Krejci's not playing. Yuri Hudler's not playing. Hertl's not playing. Nope. That's 4 of the top 6 Czech scorers from this past season in the NHL. And for a team that was already thin up front, that's missing a lot of firepower that you really can't afford to miss.
Yeah, exactly.
They do have some strong players. I think Puckleheads and Voracek are probably going to be the leaders offensively. It'll be interesting to see Vladimir Sobotka. He's been away from the NHL for a couple seasons, and he's always flirting. Oh, he's going to go back to St. Louis this year or not? It looks like he's going to try and go back to St. Louis this season. So it'll be interesting to see that. Another interesting guy, Michal Kempny. He's a defenseman, just signed with the Blackhawks. Gotten high praise from a lot of people in the Blackhawks.
Yeah,
a lot of praise from people in the Blackhawks system has Kempny, but I agree. This team they're the thinnest, I think, in every position. I think Neuwirth or Mrazek are capable of stealing games, but I mean, I think the only thing they really have going for them is the relative weakness of their group compared to Group B, where if they got hot and won, if they beat Team Europe and they beat the US in 2 fluke games, they could make it to the semifinal round. But other than that, I don't really see this team having much hope.
Yeah, I think their one shot of the win might be against Europe, and maybe unless one of the goalies steals something for them. But I can honestly see them going winless in that group there.
Same.
I really could. It wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, and now moving on to the 7th best team who we have in the tournament is another team in Group A.
Yep.
Team Europe. Like I said off the top, this is Team Kopitar, as has been referred to. I think it's fair to say that this team exists because Slovenia probably wasn't going to have a strong enough team to enter the tournament. You could probably make the same case for Slovakia as well. They wanted to have Marian Hossa and Zdeno Chara in the tournament. But I think the most interesting storyline about Team Europe is who their head coach is, because Ralph Kruger has maybe the most interesting journey of any person in professional sports I've ever heard of.
I mean, he's like the most interesting man in the world now when it comes to pro sports, as far as that goes.
He went from coaching the Edmonton Oilers to being named a director of football at Southampton FC at the time, an on the rise, young, thriving English Premier League club. Promoted to chairman. They've improved their club standing every single season. And now he's taken like a month off from leading Southampton just after the transfer window closes to lead Team Europe at the World Cup of Hockey. I think it's a great story.
Give me a sec here. I mean, it is really great. And I think it is so cool to see a guy who's so passionate about more than one sport and be successful in more than one. I mean, he's like the Bo Jackson of coaching front office work.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty cool stuff right there. I mean, to be that involved in the top hockey league in the world and probably the top soccer league in the world as well. And now at the international stage, granted it's not for an exact country, but it's still here. I think it's very cool. And it's an interesting dynamic. We said we should write a sitcom about him because it's so interesting stuff here. But as we get to the Team Europe rosters here, when you look at it, Marcus, I mean, there is some talent. I think we would be ignorant to say there's not any talent here. I mean, of course, Anze Kopitar and then Marian Hossa and Marian Gaborik are both still very capable players. Matt Zuccarello, one of my favorites. Franz Nielsen, who's had a very respectable NHL career. I mean, their forward group's okay. I think their back end is where they're going to really struggle, Marcus. Again, another team lacking depth. Roman Yossi is going to carry that group. I don't know if you saw Chara go up against the North American team, but I mean, you might as well just had me standing still out there, and it was the same he looked like someone with a great tweet. Chara looks like the old grandpa at the playground trying to corral all of his kids to settle up and go back in because they were skating circles around him. Sekera, average NHL, Mark Streit, Dennis Seidenberg, not a strong group. And I think their goalies is an interesting dynamic too. Jarl Halak, Thomas Greiss, and Grubauer there. Not necessarily a strong group. We've seen Halak have really good years and some really good games, and then Halak can fall off the face of the earth at times too. Another team, which I think their forward group is pretty talented, but after that they really fall off.
I agree. I think we talked about Kruger as the most interesting man in the tournament. He does have some coaching acumen. He's coached the Swiss a lot internationally. Like I said, he has coached the Oilers during the lockout. If anything, I think that experience could help him kind of dealing with that abbreviated training camp, dealing with kind of a weird situation. I wrote about this. I've been writing a preview series on Fear the Fin where I've kind of made the case for each team. Some have been stretches more than others, but I do think, unlike the Czechs, that there is talent on this team to score an upset.
Yes.
I think with a player like Andrej Kopitar, like someone the Czechs don't have, their forward group is going to give, I think, could give the United States specifically some problems. Canada should be able to handle them, but especially if Dustin Byfuglien's playing right wing, that defense group's going to be really tested. And I think Kruger would be smart to kind of rely on his big horses, like play Yossi a lot, play Kopitar as much as he can. That might not be what the Nashville Predators and Los Angeles Kings front offices want to hear. And I think with those goalies, not sure who's going to start in net for them, but I think you do have, based on last season and previous years, you do have two guys who are capable. Halak was hurt last year, a lot of experience internationally and in the playoffs. Greiss was at his best in his career last year.
Yeah, best year ever, yeah.
And he's represented Germany. So I think you have a lot of players that aren't necessarily going to be afraid of playing against these big teams because they've played against these guys so many times before. And I think, too, in a tournament that's about nationalism, I almost think that the kind of disregarded teams maybe have a bit of a psychological edge. There's no way to quantify that, of course, but I think I wouldn't underestimate the teams that kind of have this chip on their shoulder, like Europe, where they said, hey, everybody said our countries weren't good enough. Now we're going to kind of come together and prove everybody wrong. And same with North America, they're saying we're too young for our own national team, kind of a thing. So I think I still have them as the seventh best team, but I absolutely would not be surprised if they advance out of the group because they just need to beat the U.S. once and beat the Czechs.
Which is not out of the realm, really. I think Team Europe could definitely pull an upset here. I think that'll be a little fun. I think the biggest controversy here, Marcus, they're not playing an anthem for them. I mean, the final countdown should have been played for them.
By Europe, you could have played Ode to Joy. I think you had options.
The possibilities, Team Europe, were so endless, and I was actually really excited, especially with all this national anthem controversies going on now. They could have put the ultimate troll job on it, and it would have been.
But the NHL was never going to.
Oh, no, it would have been so funny, though. It would have been so funny. I wish it happened. I really do. Just all of a sudden, just everyone gets pumped as final countdown comes.
That'd be great. I think you got to just, in a tournament like this, these teams kind of have to embrace the absurdity of their teams. Like, play some, and for Team North America, play a song by Drake because he's Canadian, but he spent so much time in the United States.
That would be funny too.
Something like that. I think
I'm all about it.
I think embracing the absurdity would go a long way. We do have some disagreement though, Connell, coming up on who we have as the sixth place team. Correct. I defer to you though, and we'll preview who you think the sixth place team is first.
Sure. And maybe people, I know you disagree. I don't see any way Russia can do anything in this tournament, and I have them as sixth. They were an absolute bust at the 2014 Sochi Olympics in their own country. They vastly disappointed. I know they're always going to have a talented forward group, of course, with Ovechkin and Malkin and Kuznetsov, who's one of my new favorite players. Tarasenko, they're great. They're another team. Their back end is what gets me, and I don't see them having any game breaker on the back end. I think they are severely overwhelmed on the back end. Nikita Nesterov is a nice little player. Markov is way over the hill. Emlyn is whatever. Kumlikov. And then you got in net. Now, in net, I think they have a decent team here as well. But I think going off how disappointing they were in 2014, I mean, if they couldn't get up and perform in their own country, why would they get up and perform almost in a World Cup spectrum?
That's a fair criticism.
I think you could coin flip who will have next and what you would have at sixth, but at the same time, I'm just not a fan of this blue line again. And we've talked about it a million times. The best teams in the NHL have the best blue lines. And the team, that forward group is great, but I mean, are you going to win every game 6-5? Is that what you're going to go for? I mean, goalies who could stand on their head, and Bobrovsky's coming off some shaky injuries over the past year or so. It looks like he's probably going to be the starter, but you're not sure there exactly. I'm just not a big fan of them, and I know you like them a little bit more than I do. I see what your insight is to the Team Russia here this year.
So I put them above Team Finland, who I have finishing sixth in the tournament. We'll touch on Finland a little bit because I think the blue line is especially important, but their forward group is just so much better than Finland's, and I think their goaltending is vastly superior to Finland's. I think Pekka Rinne and Tuukka Rask we'll touch on in a little bit when we talk about Finland. Two goalies that are absolutely on the decline. Rinne enjoyed a little bit of a bounce back this year, but for the second straight year, Tuukka Rask's save percentage, both overall and at even strength, has decreased, and that's a very worrisome sign, not only for Finland, but for the Boston Bruins. But I look at this forward group, and I just see so much talent. Ovechkin, Tarasenko, Panarin, Kuznetsov, each of those guys scored 70 points this year. And the guys that didn't on the roster, Nikita Kucherov, Evgeny Malkin, Pavel Datsyuk, even some of their lower-end players like a Nikolai Kulemin has a lot of skill, and I think with the right line mates, they can bring a lot out of. I was surprised in writing about them for Fear the Fin to find that all but two of their players have posted a positive puck possession percentage compared to their teammates, like compared to when they're on and off the ice. That kind of surprised me. They're going to need to really rely on those forwards to carry them. Unfortunately for them, their defense doesn't really look capable of shouldering that load with them. With a team like Russia, I think you'd want to get the puck to their forwards as quickly as possible. And Russia really doesn't have a lot of guys who can get the puck quickly out of their own zone. And that's absolutely a concern. But I do think the goaltending is good enough to maybe give them a chance of an upset. But I think their group is so stacked. If Finland and Russia were in the other group, I think they'd have a really good shot of getting out of their group. And I would give either of them more than a fighting chance of beating the United States and either the Europe or the Czechs, or if, another team was there instead of Canada. But, because this tournament is basically set up for the US and Canada to make it to the semifinals where they have the weaker group and arguably set up for them to meet in the final in Toronto. They've kind of gotten the short end of the stick, but if they have any hope, it's their forwards. And if Ovechkin catches fire, or some of these guys all catch fire at the same time and they get good goaltending. But I agree, they're very similar to the Dallas Stars last year, but with, I think, better goaltending and a worse defensive group.
Yeah, it's a fair criticism. So you got Russia there. As we move to Finland here, I mean, I think Finland's probably almost a reverse of what Russia is. And I think their top four of Mata, Polka, Ruotsalainen, and Vatanen too are fun. I'm so excited to see Patrick Lane play internationally.
Yes.
I think he's going to be a delight to watch. Barkov, Filppula, Jokinen, Koivu, a lot of guys who have been here before. Like you said, and Rask and Rinne, are they going to be able to get back to levels they've seen in their past career? I'm not so sure. For me, it was a coin flip with Finland and Russia. I'm kind of basing Russia's failures in Sochi a little bit, making them impacted here, and that's kind of my argument. But I like Finland's blue line a lot more. I think their forward group, although a little less talented, is certainly more defensive sound. And if their defense is able to do what I think they're going to be able to do and get the pucks up to them, I think they'll have a bit more success than people will realize. I think they could bite you a little bit here, and pretty seasoned team. But I mean, the guys like Evan, if you watch Patrick Lane in the U.S.-Finland game walked Ryan McDonough. Walked him. Yeah. Ryan McDonough is a top 10 skater in the entire NHL. He doesn't get beat one-on-one by anybody. And Patrick Lane went through his legs right around him. It's good. They're going to be an exciting team to watch. I think Finland actually has some nice youth coming into them a little bit now. And it should be exciting with Barkov, who I'm a big fan of as well. Granlund's still a young guy. And, of course, Lane there as well. And Teravainen, Carolina this year. It should be fun. Coin flip those two teams how you want them. I don't think either of them are going to make it to the medal round.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think their youth, Finland is actually, I did some research. Surprisingly, they're the youngest team in the tournament other than North America.
I believe it. They have so many young guys.
13 players born in the 1990s. That's the most in the tournament. Lane looks stellar. I think he's going to be a big bright spot for them. You mentioned Barkov. They're also young behind the bench, too. I'm butchering his name, but Lauri Marjmäki is 8 years than his youngest counterpart in the tournament. He's risen hugely through the ranks of Finland, won 2 of the last 3 Finnish league titles, and the only year they didn't win, they got 3rd place. He's a very good coach, and he's risen to this position for a reason. Of course, he's playing in the Olympics or World Championships. 9 posed to them in their group, but like you said, long shot at the medal round for both Russia and Finland.
Absolutely here. And we're moving up the ranks now. So there's our bottom crew, if you will, with Czech Republic, Europe, then Russia, Finland, how you see fit here. We go to the 4th team, who we think will make it to the next round. I think we're both on the same page here, and it goes to our homeland, the Team USA slot here, Marcus.
Yeah, I think they're a step below the best teams in this tournament, but they're a step above the worst teams in the tournament. So they're in this kind of weird, nebulous middle ground. Not good enough to beat the top teams, but definitely good enough to beat up on the bad teams and get out of their group.
Exactly. I mean, we know it's a Tortorella run team, so they're going to play hard, probably a lot of dump and chase hockey, and we would like to see America work themselves away from that. But at the same time, that's what this team's designed to do, so that's what we should expect them to do here. Marcus, are they going to rely too much on their goaltending? Can they rely too much on their goaltending?
Well, the way Jonathan Quick's playing right now, it looks like they can. I mean, he's been dynamite in those 2 games. Based on game performance, I think it's deserved that he's won the starter's job. I still think Corey Schneider's the safer bet, especially given what he's done, basically having to play on the NHL version of Team USA, carrying a team and having them overachieve. Quick doesn't really have to do that as much as Schneider has. Despite some of the depth issues, there's still a lot of top-end skill on this team. I mean, 3 of the top 10 goal scorers over the last 3 years. Joe Pavelski's 2nd, Max Pacioretty's 6th, and Patrick Kane's 8th, only because he's missed time due to injury. That's the highest mark of any team in the country other than Canada. There's been some questionable decisions, though, I think, even with the current roster. We talked about this a little bit before the show. Moving Dustin Byfuglien up front makes absolutely no sense given the makeup of the American blue line. I think John Carlson's a good player. He's a capable defenseman. I don't think he's the guy you want quarterbacking your power play. And yes, Byfuglien can do that as a forward and play that quarterback role coming back. But I think by moving Byfuglien up front, Tortorella is admitting that this team is flawed and maybe not as good as it should have been.
Yeah, I think it's just – you look at their talent group. There's not many issues at forward other than leaving a guy like Phil Kessel off the roster and whatnot. I think they do have plenty of talented forward groups. It's the back end you certainly worry about. Who's your true top pairing? Is it McDonough and Suter? Is it McDonough and Carlson? You have Suter play the 2nd role with Byfuglien back there, and of course Eric and Jack Johnson. Both of a concern to me, at least. I think they're both, they weren't on the 2014 roster, and yet they were on the 2010 one, but they're brought back to this. I know it's a little bit different with guys getting, quote-unquote injured or declining or whatnot. But listen, Team USA is still going to be competitive. You know they're going to play their hearts out. I think they will get to the medal round at the very least in this tournament, especially when we talk about how weak their group is compared to the other one.
Yep.
Pretty much as long as they get their wins against Europe and the Czechs, they could lose to Canada and it wouldn't even matter. So I think they'll find their way to get out of it. And Marcus, fun trivia question as I'm looking at the roster here.
Yes.
Who is the oldest of Ben Bishop, Jonathan Quick, and Corey Schneider?
Corey Schneider, I think. Or is it Bishop?
They're actually all born in the same year.
Really? Wow.
Jonathan Quick was born in January, Corey Schneider in March, and then Ben Bishop in November.
Interesting.
All 1986. Yeah, I found that interesting.
I think goaltending is the strength of this team. Since 1980, they're always going to chase the ghosts of 1980, and the U.S. has had good goaltenders. The forwards, they are what they are. Brandon Dubinsky, David Backes, Justin Abdelkader probably shouldn't be on this team, but they are. I think if Tortorella uses his best players and kind of rides them, they'll be fine. But yeah. I mean, Pacioretty looked good after he called him out, but a little bit of a concern to me when at one point the two players with the lowest ice time both scored 30 goals last season, and Kyle Palmieri and Max Pacioretty. But this team still has a lot of talent. I think they can absolutely beat Canada in a one-off situation. What I worry about this team is, especially if they make a final in a 2-of-3 scenario, I just don't think they have enough to beat a team in a 2-of-3, let alone if it was a best-of-7.
Yeah, you're going to need whoever it is, most likely Quick, to pull a Mike Richter in 96 and just absolutely steal the show pretty much.
Yeah, exactly.
That's almost what you're betting on at that point. It's the way this team is built, unfortunately.
And I think a lot's been made, too. They're about how they're built and they're designed to stop Canada. I mean, I didn't watch the second game that Canada won. I watched the first game.
Nonsense.
The U.S. won, but Canada dominated. The U.S. dominated an 8-minute stretch of the game, and to me, that was the most impressive stretch I've seen of any team in this exhibition tournament.
Goals in 8 minutes or something like that, right?
Yeah, and that to me showed, hey, they could sustain this style, and if they could spread it out to a whole game, but it doesn't look like they're going to, because you also saw the moment they got a 2-goal lead, their foot was just taken immediately off the gas. And, I mean, that's what Tortorella does. It's frustrating. I think in a short tournament, this will work. Could work, but I don't think it's a safe bet. And, like we've insinuated, I would not be shocked if they get upset in their group.
Yeah, no, I think I think a team Europe, I think, could definitely scare them a little bit, especially with their forward group up there. I'm with you 100%. Yeah, and that U.S.-Canada game, U.S. is outshot basically 2-1, and they were outchanced 3-1. So,
sustainable.
They had I think they had 26 block shots. I'm like, dude, oh, God.
All these guys are going to go to their training camps with
yeah, they're going to be injured.
Sore ankle. Yeah, exactly. I don't think the rest of the league.
That's half the concern I have for this tournament is people are going to get hurt.
Maybe that's Tortorella's strategy this whole time. Is
to get everyone else's players injured and
he's going to scratch Dubinsky and Johnson during the tournament.
That's a decent strategy. I was going to ask you if you think now, because originally Torts obviously he's in one of the examples, and Babcock. Do you think it's a different angle if you're a professional coach coming into here and coaching an NHL team, and then now coaching for the most part NHL players?
Well, I think the big reason Torts was hired in the first place is because he wasn't coaching a team at the time.
He wasn't a coach at that point.
And I think it changed a lot. I think it's absolutely a different dynamic. I think both these guys are professional enough where they can handle it and separate it. I certainly think one of those two examples is more qualified than the other. And I know you love Torts, and I don't think he's, you've mentioned this, and I think you've made a great point. Like a guy like Mike Sullivan is kind of an ideal version of John Tortorella. Like they emphasize shot blocking, but they understand the importance of puck possession. I think Torts knows the importance of puck possession, but I think it's kind of lost on him. I would have liked to see a Mike Sullivan coach this team, but again, like you said, he was hired in the first place because he didn't have a job. Then he did. I don't think that'll affect his ability to coach the U.S. in this tournament, but certainly adds fodder for conspiracy theories.
Oh, all about the conspiracy theories here. So we move ourselves up the ranks. So we have Team USA, which would then, by our ranking system, would then finish second in their group
yes.
A play, correct? That's where you have them.
Correct. Yeah.
As we move up here then, to the third team we have going here. I want to make sure, because we're discussing about who we're going to have win Group B. We're figuring out if we agreed and whatnot. And I've watched all these teams play, and I've been thinking about it back and forth, because I think going into this tournament, for my money's worth, who I thought could beat Canada the best was Sweden. And now we think maybe it could be North America. So who do you have? Who do you have at the third spot, Marcus?
So I have Sweden second and North America third, but I think North America is going to win their group.
I want to ask. That was my question. Okay.
We'll touch on Sweden's struggles in a little bit, but I think they're going to kind of find their legs as the tournament goes on. Like this North America team, like if you have issues rooting for Team USA, and they're myriad. I mentioned this piece on Winging It in Motown this week. From whether if you disagree with Tortorella's hot take, and then you have the way the roster is constructed, and then the marketing emphasis of Patrick Kane, who by all accounts is, I don't mean to editorialize, but seems kind of like a little bit of a scumbag. Like, I don't think that's unfair to say. And I'm an opinion maker in this role, not a reporter. So I can say that.
Marcus is going on record.
As hard as Team USA is to root for, rooting for the 12 Americans on Team North America is very easy. This team, I think, is the most.
This is like my dream.
This is like a hockey. Ryan Lambert had a great line. He said they play with speed and puck possession to an almost pornographic level for hockey fans.
Dude,
and I think that's absolutely fair. I think this team is fun to watch. I remember I watched their first pre-tournament game against North America. And, you and I had, we'd warmed to the idea. I think once this tournament was announced, you and I and Cole even kind of thought, this under-23 team, if optimized properly, could be pretty good. Then the roster came out, and you're like,
we were just ecstatic.
You're like, this team's going to be good. And then you saw how they played together, and you're like, okay, this team is really good. I mean, I wrote about them yesterday on Fear the Fin, and, shameless plug, I recommend you all check out the article. This team is filled with guys that probably would have made their national team if this team didn't exist. I mean, especially on the American side, just based on what the roster is for Team USA, Gostisbehere, Seth Jones.
Hockey.
You could argue Larkin. Of course, Johnny Hockey would absolutely have made that team.
Yeah.
And then everyone who had, and then on Canada's side, McDavid for sure. Aaron Ekblad, probably at least gets a look. He might be there as the seventh guy. Maybe over a guy like Pietrangelo. But this team is just, and the guys who weren't kicking on the door, as I said in the article, are guys that have represented their team at the senior level. The only two who haven't played in the World Championships are Colton Parayko, who was one of the best defensemen in the league last year.
Love him.
And then Matt Murray, who just won a Stanley Cup. Those are the only two guys without senior level international experience. I think people are seriously underrating North America's chances. They've emerged as a trendy pick, but I think people are still too low on them because they're our favorite cliche. Oh, they're too young to know any better.
They're so good. I mean, their only maybe weak point is their goaltending, and this is coming from we're criticizing a guy who just won a Stanley Cup. So
exactly.
I mean,
John Gibson, who's played in international games, Connor Hellebuyck has as well. All those guys have pretty much really dominated at the AHL. They've shown great flashes in the NHL. I think a weakness is a relative term compared to the strength of this team.
This team is so good. Their goaltending is not going to have to be that good. That's how. I mean, this team is. Oh, I love this. I'm in love with this team. I wish I could coach this team. If you ask, Connell, what's your dream coaching scenario? It would be to coach this team as is right now. That would be my favorite team ever to coach. Don't really have a weak spot in their lineup. Every line they put out can score. Every line they put out can skate. Their defensemen are puck-moving guys. We talk about Parayko. We love Seth Jones. Aaron Ekblad is one of my favorite guys in the NHL, mostly because he looks like he's 40, yet he's 2 years younger than me.
Yeah.
And then Ghost, who came onto the scene last year. I'm a huge Morgan Riley fan as well. And then he rounded out Ryan Murray and Jacob Trouba. I mean, just an ideal situation. Love Team North America. They are going to scare some teams in this tournament. That is for sure.
I think this is my hot take right now. I think their blue line is at least on the same level as Canada, if not better. I think
it's better.
Yeah, okay, then we're both on the hot take bandwagon. I would agree. I think it's a better blue line. I'm not just talking potential. What we, especially now knowing what we know about young players and when guys peak, like this is pretty much an ideal collection. Like all your guys are under the age of 23. Like
Yeah.
this team is going to be very fun to watch. And I think they're going to blitzkrieg teams in this group. I think they're going to blow Russia and the Finland out of the rink. The Finland, they're just Finland. They're not the Finland. And I think they're going to beat Sweden, and I think that's why I have Sweden finishing second in this group, because Sweden struggled a little bit, but like this team is just so loaded. I mean, 16 of 20 skaters are first round picks, and they're goalies that aren't first round picks. 2 were named top 50 goaltending prospects last year. 2 in the top 5. Like, I don't think you could have assembled a better roster of under 23 players.
Yeah, it's as good as it gets, and it's as far as from a pure just neutral fandom perspective, they're easily my favorite team to watch in the tournament, no doubt. So we move our way up there after we could talk about North America for the next 2
We're
weeks.
going to, when they do so well in the tournament.
Exactly. Next spot we have then would come in. Coming up next would be Team Sweden, of course, coming in at 2. Like I said, they're kind of, I think North America and Sweden are almost interchangeable at where they're at. I think I was a little bit higher on Sweden going into the tournament. They've had some injuries here. They've looked a little weak coming into it. But their Marcus, we talked about it going, and their blue line is still, I think, the best in the tournament. Ekman, Larson, Hedman, Hjalmarsson, Carlson, even with Lindholm, Strawman, Ekholm there as well.
Hedman.
And of course, Victor Hedman, I mean, who's just a stud and the top 5 defenseman in the league right now. And it's a good group. Another team that's going to play with a lot of speed, a lot of puck possession. This probably arguably could be, depending on how long the Sedins go and if the NHLers go to the Olympics in 2018, the last go around for them at the national level, which should be exciting. Of course, they're goaltending with Henrik Lundqvist, who has been shaky so far. And, of course, he's my boy, but he has been shaky. But I don't think there's too much to worry about there. It's still early, just kind of finding his legs and whatnot. Jonas Enroth and Markstrom then are coming in 1 and 2 and 3 there. Could be an issue if Henrik does struggle and you have to put in one of those guys, and that's definitely a cause for concern. But their D is so good. They have a lot of scoring, powerful scoring up front. A lot of speed up front, of course. Carl Hagelin. Nicholas Backstrom is one of my favorite players in the NHL. He could set up anybody on a pass. Sweden, Marcus, they're going to be good. Are they going to be good enough?
Well, you want to talk about a team that is designed to beat Team Canada. I think Sweden is designed to beat Team Canada. You have, in my opinion, 3 of the top 5 defensemen in the league in Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Victor Hedman, and Erik Karlsson. And, oh, by the way, you also have Anton Strawman, Nicholas Hjalmarsson, Lindholm. The fact that John Klingberg didn't make this group.
Which is still,
and that's not that crazy, seeing what they have.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of insane. Look, I think this Sweden team, I think they're designed to beat Canada. Like I said, their blue line is good enough. They have the best goalie in the tournament, all things being equal, and Henrik Lundqvist, who can steal a game. And, for all the talk about the U.S.'s collection of gritty two-way forwards, I think Sweden's done it better. I mean, you look, their third-line center in a grind role is going to be Gabriel Landeskog. Like, that's better than Brandon Dubinsky or David Backes or Ryan Kessler in that same position, in my opinion. I think I look at this roster and I'm writing the preview for them tonight. I see a team that was built to beat Team Canada, and ultimately a team that I think can, and, I say will beat Team Canada, because it's, I don't want to tease the predictions too much, but it's not fun if we just go chalk. I look at Sweden and I think they're the best team in the tournament.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. But yet you still have them coming in second in their group, just on a fluke.
I do. I think they're struggling. They've been struggling a little bit so far, and I think Lundqvist, he's kind of the goalie that's found, he's going to find his legs a little more as this
tournament. Is one of those weird scenarios where I think the more he plays, the better he gets. And as much as you want to rest him, and it comes into this come to season for the Rangers too. He's one of the, he picks it up throughout the playoffs. He seemingly gets better and better each game. So I'm with you on that. I get that. Yeah.
And I think they're, North America will surprise them a little bit, but should they have a rematch, hint, hint, I think they'll have learned from it. And then, that like that blue line. I think, especially in a tournament like this, in a best on best tournament, the team that's got the best blue line has the best chance. And I don't think it's really close between Sweden and Canada for who has a better blue line.
Absolutely. So as we mentioned, Canada there, they come in and at our boring number one pick. Hard to pick against them with that forward group, Marcus. And I mean, they just, if you ever want a team that could just hold on to the puck and do nothing else, it's just Team Canada here. And I mean, and you know, you can still make the argument. Now, granted, Tyler Seguin goes down. Big injury. Big Tyler Seguin fans here. They replace him with Ryan O'Reilly, which is a little bit interesting to me. I think there could have been elsewhere picks you could have gone.
Who would you have picked to replace him?
I mean, you could pick anybody. I mean, I'm glad. Well, I'm glad first off, Claude Giroux's on this team. I think he's deserved it there. I don't know. I guess they wanted a center, so to speak. I mean, but you could. I mean, hell, hey, they picked Chris Kunitz to play with Crosby. They could have picked Marlowe to go with Joe Thornton. I don't think it would have been that crazy of a concept.
I think I like the O'Reilly pick. Surprisingly, I think especially because he's going to play on their quote unquote fourth line.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
When I watched the U.S. game with Canada, I looked at Canada and thought that this is a roster that everything the U.S. tries to do, Canada does better. They have a better blue line. They have a better forward group. Carey Price, when he's on his game, I think is more consistent and proven to be better than Jonathan Quick. And at the same time, you know, the U.S. tried to annoy Canada, but you're not going to out-annoy a team that has Corey Perry, Brad Marchand, and now Ryan O'Reilly. Like, that team's going to get under your skin, too.
True.
And I think
Doughty, too. Like, just a bunch of pests back there.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think so. When I saw the U.S. trying to, like, you know, piss them off and annoy them, like, you're poking a sleeping bear. Look, this team, even without Tyler Seguin, you know, they're still running Sidney Crosby, Patrice Bergeron, Joe Thornton, Claude Giroux. The collection of talent up front is absurd. I don't think their blue line is as good as Sweden's or North America because of who is left off this roster. Jay Bouwmeester, who's played well, bit of a controversial ad, but it makes you think that maybe Mark Giordano turned down Team Canada, seeing how many players have turned down Team Canada. Still inexcusable that PK Subban is not on this roster. No matter what you say about Shea Weber or whatnot, PK Subban's better than him. He's better than, I think, every defenseman on the Canadian roster, including Drew Doughty. On the left side, I do like, you know, they have Vlasic, they have Muzzin. They've made a big deal about, you know, wanting that lefty-righty balance, and then they've gone ahead and played Pietrangelo and Brent Burns together, which doesn't make sense. But, you know, I mean, this team still, even without Subban, this and Giordano, this blue line is still loaded. I mean, Doughty, Weber, Burns, Vlasic, Muzzin, second or third best in the tournament. And, you know, if Price plays as well as he can, it's a given that they'll win. It might not matter anyway because their forwards are so good. But even though I think they're the best team on paper, I do think that blue line is what's going to set them back.
Absolutely here. So that brings our top four there. In our group, we'd have Canada winning Group A with U.S. coming in second. You have North America winning Group B.
Yes.
And Sweden coming second. I'm still want to flip-flop that. I think you can go either way here. For the sake of keeping things flowing, I'll say North America wins the group here.
Okay.
Sweden here, which would then bring us to our matchups. We'd have Canada versus North America.
Yep.
Which would just be so much fun.
Oh, yeah.
And Sweden against the United States of America, Marcus. Let's focus on USA Sweden to start here. Sorry. Did I mix that up? Maybe USA
North America.
Right?
USA North America.
Canada versus Sweden. So let's do Canada Sweden first here.
So that's what a lot of people thought was going to be the gold medal game.
Yeah. So
gold medal series
here. Yeah, the World Series, the gold medal game, whatever it may be here. That's in retrospect, this should have the World Series would apply much better to this name than it would for baseball.
Oh, absolutely.
It's absolutely baseball, MLB. If you're listening, that's an arrogant name. It's a very arrogant name. Japan.
Any team that has a world champion banner when they've won a North American League,
I think that's complete garbage.
It's garbage.
Yes. The only people who can have world championship banners, is honestly, if you win a World Cup of sorts.
Yeah.
So, or you know, even Olympics, I would let you have it. Okay.
Yes, I would agree.
I think it's ridiculous. So, okay, we're taking Canada versus Sweden here in a semifinal match. should be a bloodbath here, Marcus. Canada, probably more talented up front. We like the Swedish blue line better. I think if you got Carey Price and Henrik Lundqvist going together, that's as good of a goaltending matchup if they're both on top gear here. That's as coin flip as it gets here. My prediction, Marcus, 3-2 overtime.
Who gets the goal? Who gets the goal?
For Sweden, pulling off the upset here.
Okay.
Okay, Sweden pulls off the upset on Canada. All right. Puck gets wrapped around. Oh, well, first off, Erik Karlsson makes a beautiful breakout pass because that's what Erik Karlsson does.
Of course.
They hit Carl Hagelin speeding up the off wing. Quick stop. Drops the puck. Backstrom's going to pick it up. He's going to hit Patrick Hornquist backdoor. Sweden scores 6 minutes, 23 seconds into overtime. Write it down. Put money on it. It's going to happen.
I think until this in the semifinal round, you're right. It is continuous overtime until the semis.
Before that, I think it's just 3-on-3 and then
3-on-3, then shootout. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Sweden's going to win that game 3-1. The third goal will be an empty net goal. I think Carl Hagelin's going to get it. I think he's going to block
like the king. I'm convinced. Look up. I want it looked up. Carl Hagelin has more empty net goals since he's come into the league than everybody else. I would actually put I'd put money on that.
What would you guess his career empty net goals are? As our interns furiously look up these statistics.
Yeah, get on it, guys. Come on. Are you looking this up?
I'm looking it up right now. Yeah. What would you guess?
Dude, I mean, he has so many empty net goals because first off, he's a good defensive player, so he's usually out there late, and then he's just faster, so he just gets a chip and then he goes and gets the puck.
Well, it's actually not on Hockey Reference, so I teased you. I teased you when it's not even there.
I'll look it up and tweet it out later.
I think they're going to win 3-1. I think it'll be a game where they're going to soak up a lot of pressure. They get out to a quick 2-goal lead, kind of like what the U.S. did. But their blue line, I just think, is going to withstand and withhold Canada. And I think with that, Sweden's onto the.
Yeah, absolutely. Sweden to the finals there. And honestly, if it was Sweden-Canada in the finals, it wouldn't surprise me either. But it gives us another glorious matchup here between the United States and Team North America. Almost who are you going to root for scenario here.
Right.
Marcus, here's what's going to happen. Here's how it's going to go down. The U.S. is going to score a goal 2 minutes into the game. All right? Pavelski's going to get it off a clapper lot, okay? Everyone's going to get real excited. Oh, here come the U.S., and everyone's going to think North America is going to just be like, oh, we're young. We don't know any better. We're scared. They're going to come up with 4 straight unanswered goals. They're going to win the team by 2 or 3 goals, 4-1 final. Team North America is going to skate circles around that back end. With the exception, honestly, probably with the exception of Ryan McDonough, nobody could keep up with them as far as the U.S. blue line goes. And we've talked about how they could have had a better group back there, Marcus, and leaving off some very notable guys. Eric and Jack Johnson are going to be in trouble. Suter, who's still a very good defenseman, has certainly lost a step now. He's getting older here. Big buff, he's big and physical, and he's got a big reach. But if they could get around him, they're going to do some damage there. I actually think Team North America handles the U.S. pretty easily.
I think so, too. I have it as a 4-0 shutout. I think the only way the U.S. can truly learn that they cannot keep chasing the ghosts of 1980.
I hope this happens. I hope it happens so they learn a lesson.
Is to be beaten by their own guys. But honestly, no matter what happens, I don't think they're going to learn a lesson. I think they'll just chalk it up as, oh, well, there's not going to be an under-23 North America team. Dustin Brown, Ryan Callahan, you guys want to come to South Korea in 2018? Like, guaranteed. But no, I think, like you said, this North America team is going to skate circles around the U.S. And I think at that point, Todd McClellan, John Cooper are going to tap into every, nobody believed in us, every narrative, chip on their shoulder thing about how you guys are younger and you're still better than your counterparts within your own country. And I think they're going to smoke the American team. And I think it's going to set up a Group B rematch in the final, North America, Sweden, 3 games. That will be, I don't know how that'll do ratings wise. That's probably the last thing ESPN wants. But I will be very excited to watch that final. That would be my dream final, and that's what I think is going to happen.
2 of the best skating teams in the tournament, maybe the 2 best skating teams, Marcus. So in the scenario we're given here, North America versus Sweden, it's a best of 3. Let's go game by game. Do we see it?
Game by game. Okay, I like it.
You see it ending in 3. I see it at least going.
I see it in 3.
I see it goes 3 here.
Yeah, I think North America gets the first game.
Yep, I agree.
They win 4-2. Sweden still, plays a little better than that group stage game, but still kind of struggles with their speed. Sweden figures them out. They're just going to be playing Victor Hedman and Erik Karlsson 30 minutes the whole game, basically, which there's worse things you could do.
Yeah. That decision.
And then I think the final, we're going to have I think, this is just ideal. And I think Carl Hagelin's going to score the game-winning goal in overtime of Game 3 of the World Cup of Hockey, and Sweden will emerge victorious.
Win the whole thing. You're going Sweden.
Sweden, you're damn right, Sweden.
In
the World Cup of Hockey.
In the World Cup of Hockey. It's hard not to pick Sweden. I think Sweden is going into this tournament. Initially, we're thinking Sweden, but you know what, Marcus? We need some controversy here.
Oh boy,
got a bookie. Give me Team North America all the way. Prove them wrong. Team North America, a setup in the slot. McDavid to Eichel, and the Team Team North America wins it in overtime. A triple overtime thriller for the World Cup of Hockey.
Okay, I love it. This
low scoring.
I want to see these two teams. I think that's going to be the game of the group stage for me. I mean, U.S. Canada, of course, is going to be appointment viewing as always, but man, these two teams are both going to be fun to watch. And I would, I'd love to see the U.S. win, although it would, I think, send the wrong message. I would love.
Yeah, it's a weird situation
to see these two teams in the final.
Yeah, it's a weird situation with the U.S. because, of course, I'm going to be rooting for the United States. Always will.
Yes.
No questions asked. But there also is that same thing that makes me say, especially, if they still keep going to the Olympics, where you do want them to be like, guys, like, we don't need to play this scrappy hockey anymore. Like, we have the talent to start skating with these teams and play with these teams. There's no reason we can't have our quote unquote most talented best players there. So if they win, will they learn that lesson? I don't know. If they lose, will they learn that lesson? I don't know. You kind of hope they do. But regardless, Marcus, I am much more optimistic about this tournament as a fan than I think I originally was.
I've become way more optimistic. I think another, angle, we didn't talk about this pre-show, but I definitely want to talk about it. We fancy ourselves junior amateur media members. What have you made of the broadcast coverage so far?
I was about to bring this up.
ESPN?
The one flaw is the broadcast coverage because it's been, I think, mediocre at best. I think Brett Hall and we'll start with them in the studio. Brett Hall and Chris Chelios, which is kind of funny, two outspoken guys during their hockey careers, not afraid to say what was on their mind, have almost seemed very hesitant and nervous and uncomfortable in a studio. I understand why they would pick them. They seem like they'd be talkative guys, but they have not been good at all. I really haven't enjoyed them. And Linda Cohn in studio, I'm a fan of hers, but she's been it's been awkward between that crew. I think because
I was going to say the same thing. It really feels like they have no chemistry.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of it because of Chelios and Hall have not been on TV before, but they do not feed off each other well. It's been a poor job in there. I have not been, and I know that. So that I was reading correctly, then the broadcast crew is going to be Butchie on the play-by-play, Weeks on the color. And the other is going to be Levy and Melrose. And
with
I know
Darren Pang.
The Danger Pang Pang's going to be between the – and I like Panger. I'm a fan of Panger. I think he does a good job. He's funny. But I know in the semifinals, I think it's just going to be Levy and Melrose, and Butchie's going to move back to the studio.
Yes. And I think, we've talked about this a lot. I don't know if we've had these discussions on air. We both love John Butchergross. He clearly loves the game of hockey. But I think Levy's a more capable play-by-play guy than he is, and I think that's why Levy is the lead play-by-play voice. But, I love Bucci, but maybe he wanted to do play-by-play. He's had some fun goal calls, and I think him and Weeks have pretty good chemistry. I mean, we can touch on Weeks in a little bit. For my money, he's been the best part of these broadcasts. I think Kevin Weeks is a star. The fact that he's only on NHL Network just kind of blows my mind. It feels like with Chelios and Hull and Cohn, and I'm sure this isn't the case, but it really feels like they didn't do any kind of like practice or mock shows with them.
Hey, you guys want to get on the air here? Just kind of call them up and like, all right.
Exactly. and this was, I don't know when this was announced, but you'd almost think, because ESPN, they seem to be taking this seriously. They're covering it a lot. It's going to be on SportsCenter. It's an event that they own, so they're going to have an interest in it. But you would have liked to see maybe Hull and Chelios ease their feet in by coming on during the Stanley Cup playoffs, and maybe the contracts didn't allow it, but at the same time, you see a guy like Mike Johnson get let go from Sportsnet, who's now he's filming with NHL Network. He would have been an invaluable addition to this broadcast crew. Would have certainly raised the quality in the studio. I thought Adnan Virk had a little bit better chemistry with Linda Cohn, or with the two guys than Linda Cohn did, but I still it's been a disappointment for sure. And I think Bucci on play-by-play, I think he's first of all much better in a studio role. And I can attest to this a little bit, having called one play-by-play game in my life. You need reps more than anything to be good at play-by-play. You think about guys like Doc Emmerich, Gary Thorne, all these guys have called thousands of games. And, they probably couldn't have gotten Gary Thorne because of the conflicts with that. But you'd like to have maybe a little bit more of a proven voice, and then Butcher Gross, and then you move Butcher Gross back to the studio. And maybe you have Linda Cohn, anchor SportsCenter or something from very inside baseball or inside hockey, if you will, about the broadcast. But it's come back to ESPN, and I think their game broadcasts have definitely been better, but it's been a disappointment. And I don't think Barry Melrose is particularly good on color commentary. I think he's too long-winded at times. They almost would have been better served, I think, if it was just Levy and Pang, because that was the team way back in the day. They obviously have chemistry. And then if Kevin Weeks was with an experienced game caller. Now, you're not going to get Doc Emmerich because he's NBC, and they're never going to loan him to ESPN. It feels like a missed opportunity with some of the broadcasts so far.
Yeah, I agree. It's just I think back to the Chelios whole thing, I thought of this when you brought it up. I think a lot of it's trying to tap in. They're really trying to tap into that whole 1996 World Cup of hockey and the upsets.
Yes.
They're getting the guys there. And honestly, if you want to speak about that, who is a fantastic guy on camera is Mike Richter. I don't know if you've ever seen him speak. He once in a while will come in and do some stuff. And Mike Richter's he's a very bright guy and a very smart guy. And he's involved in a lot of other things after hockey. But he would have been a better choice if you're trying to get somebody off that team. If they could have got him, maybe they tried to. But they're trying to tap into that role a bit, which I understand why they would do so. But at the same time, it's just, they're a bit uncomfortable. And you want the best scenario here, especially hockey back on ESPN, I think brings a lot of memories. And at least for me, those are some of my earliest hockey memories is watching those Gary Thorne games and, the late 90s into early 2000s and whatnot. So the broadcast crew has been suboptimal. I love Kevin Weeks, though. I'm a huge
He's so good. I don't get how he's only on NHL Network. He's so good.
He's funny. He's good looking. He's awesome. He's great. He really is. I'm a huge fan of his.
And I think Chelios has been better than Hull.
Yeah, Hull.
I think Hull is just.
I don't know.
Hull he'll speak for like 20 seconds. And then the camera cuts to him on a one shot, and you could tell the producers thought he was going to go longer, and then he just freezes.
Yeah, that happened like a cup more than once, like a couple times.
Yeah, it looks like they're working out the kinks with these pre-tournament games, but I think they would have been better served to have some others. But I think I'm excited just to have it, back on ESPN. I love that they're tapping into the music.
They got the music and everything too, which is great.
It's it's like the Olympics basketball this year. I don't know if you caught any of that, but they played the NBA on NBC, Round Ball Rock. They play that before every Olympic basketball game. The
I remember that one.
Channeling that 90s nostalgia. So that'll be cool. I don't know what Sportsnet's doing. I'm assuming it'll be okay, but it really does feel like a missed opportunity from ESPN because some of I love NBC. Certain aspects of it, but it's hard to say that these two are even an improvement over Mike Milbury in studio.
Yeah, there's an argument. I think Milbury, he's got hot takes, but I think at least he can handle himself at least from
he's comfortable on camera. And that's
from an analytic perspective, he can at least be on camera and comfortable. What he's saying is usually just complete garbage mostly, but it's almost always wrong. But at least he's got the whereabouts to feed off people and hand it off kind of thing. Well, these guys have none of that.
And Chelly was at one point he was awkwardly putting his arm on the desk and he was so cornered to the host, and it's like they have like so many people with experience, and they're not telling them like, hey, open up to the camera. But it's just I mean, it'll be fine. It's something we lament, but I don't think it's going to have an impact on how the tournament goes. I'm interested to see how the ratings are for it, how they compare to an NHL game. I mean, we're talking about a league that is very regionally driven in its television ratings. So I could see it doing really well, but at the same time, it's opening against a college football Saturday, and I could see that.
Their opening weekend choice is very poor Saturday against all the college football games. I got to be honest, I think the ratings are not going to be good. I just think the timing I think the reason sometimes, now granted the Olympics and the NHL season stops, but I think it's the reason like they do so well with the Olympic hockey games is because, all right, it's already in the middle of hockey season. People are in the swing of hockey season. There's not a lot of other sports going on. Now you got, baseball down the stretch, football and college football just starting. I mean, I think it's going to struggle a little bit in the ratings department. So will that?
And it's the Olympics too. It's the Olympics. You've got that behind it. They don't have the same. No. I mean, the only ads I've seen for it are those awful Reg Carling like attempts at like just poor attempts at comedy, and it's like for casual hockey fans to like. Team North America is like hockey at its apex. You know what I mean? Like that's the ideal way to catch fans. Young, fast, good. We talk all the time about the NHL's poor job of marketing.
Oh, they're so bad.
I think they've done a really bad job. There's no buzz. I just feel like there's no buzz around this tournament in the general sports world. The biggest buzz came when I'm doing on the Colin Kaepernick thing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's it. I mean, people started caring about that. But I mean, of course, there's hockey fans like us who are going to watch anything that's hockey related. But at the same time, I don't know how the ratings are going to do. I really don't think they're going to be that successful. I agree that I think the marketing's been poor. You hope people chime in, but it's different. The World Cup, it's not like this is a regular thing that happens every 4 years. It's just they kind of just decide to do it when they want to do it. Kind of took over from the old Canada Cup, and people in Canada are going to watch, of course, and I think certain pockets of this country are going to keep watching. But at the same time, with the college football and the NFL and everything that's going on, I wonder how it is. And also with the like we talked about, I think the poor broadcasting could hurt them too.
What do you think gets better ratings over this stretch? English Premier League games on Saturdays and Sundays, or the World Cup of Hockey?
I'm going to take the Premier League games.
Yeah, really? Wow. NHL typically outrates the Prem, but I think, the NHL, you have some kind of regular broadcast windows because this is coming out of nowhere.
Yeah,
I think it could disappoint some folks at ESPN. Any other like last minute predictions you have? Any other World Cup takes you want to get in? It feels like we've covered a lot of it.
Yeah, I think next World Cup of Hockey, there should be no countries involved, and then every team is going to be based off different things. I was reading about this in the hockey news. So you have like an all looks team.
Oh, okay. Who's your all looks starting five?
All looks starting five. Hankey in goal, of course. You got to have Patrick Sharp on that roster. That guy's a stud.
Oh yeah.
I'd probably have PK Subban on that roster.
Okay.
So there's a D at forward. I need some. Who would I have up front?
I got Patrick Marleau left starting wing. The other.
Yeah, he's a handsome guy. He looks just like Patrick Marleau, and the guy who's the coach in Friday Night Lights, the show, could be brothers.
Exactly the same.
I mean, they're a handsome guy. I could put Marleau there.
I've never seen them in the same place at the same time.
Well, see, conspiracy. That's what I'm talking about. This is how it starts. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, you could argue Erik Karlsson on the back end. I'm trying to think.
Karlsson, Subban.
Karlsson, Subban. Hankey in goal, Patrick Sharp, Marleau on the wings, and then center would probably be.
There's really not a lot of like guys where I'm like, oh, that's center. Like
Derek Brassard is pretty handsome.
I could live with that.
I like Derek Brassard as a handsome guy. So you got an all looks team. You could do like
all flow.
I'll flow, but like the flow's got to be like at least touching the shoulders, like really got to be like lettuce for days.
Hagelin wears the C on that team.
What's up?
Hagelin wears the C on that team.
Yeah, Hagelin is all flow for days.
You can make too, right?
Honestly, half if you're going to go all looks team, half the team would probably be Swedish. To be relatively honest. You could do then, I think, just to troll the NHL, you do a 35 and older team.
Yes.
And then you could do another 23 and under team, or do just to be ridiculous, do a 20 and under team, just to 40 and over, 20 and under, just get guys who are holding on to the. Dominic Hasek will come out of retirement and play goalie.
Yogs will still be playing.
Peter Nedved, who's still playing over in Europe, you bring him back. Guys like that would play. I think just the ultimate troll job. Then you can have a group of guys who are either fat or who in the media hates.
Yes, the all media hate team.
All media. So you have Phil Kessel.
But PK Subban can't be on 2 teams.
That's true. It's tough. You gotta have to make a decision. You could have Phil Kessel. You could have
Alex Radulov.
Jarl Halak could be the goalie. I think you could really do a troll job. So that actually could be our next podcast. Would just be the troll job World Cup of Hockey.
Dude, I'm in. Yeah, absolutely.
Next year, we'll have our own World Cup of Hockey, and then we'll put it online and we'll do simulations and see who wins. That's not a terrible idea.
I think we could do it. I'm a particular fan of the all media. Now, how would that team look? Would that be you just have national guys, or because I think we could also go with guys that get ripped in their own market for no reason. Another team I think Patrick Marleau could be on.
Yeah.
I think Joe Thornton probably too, but
yeah, I mean Patrick Marleau could be on that team.
I love that idea.
Rick Nash could be on that team if we're going to market live.
Oh, dude, Rick Nash could absolutely be on that team.
And then you could have, if you really want to troll, one last time, CBA contract disputes, guys,
the all
buyout team, or all the teams of guys who have contracts who we think are going to force the next lockout. That could be your last. We could do an ultimate troll World Cup of Hockey. The Puckleheads present the World Cup of Hockey on Google Hangouts. So we'll broadcast all the games.
I could be interested. There is one thing that does kind of ancillarily relate to the NHL, and I'm not sure when we're going to meet next. I'd imagine we'll do a preview for the final.
Oh yeah, well, I think that's the plan. Or if not the final, at least maybe after the preliminaries, maybe the semifinals even, and talk about it a little bit.
We should do that for sure.
Of course, as the NHL season moves on, we'll do a season preview and whatnot.
There are 6 guys in this tournament that aren't signed right now that are restricted free agents. Jacob Trouba, Johnny Gaudreau, Dmitry Orlov, Nikita Kucherov, and Rasmus Ristolainen. We could do a little in depth on this as much as you'd like, but which of those do you think is the most concerning for their team? The most worried about it getting done? Because I have a clear number one. What I think the rest of them
got to be Johnny Hockey. I mean, that's I mean, what happens if he breaks his ankle? I mean, it's bad. All right, it's 2 things. One, it's bad for him for the money he's going to be making, and 2, it screws the Calgary Flames, who aren't that good of a team to begin with. And that's an interesting dynamic. And as an NHL-run tournament, I'm almost surprised they're allowed to play.
I'm shocked. Frankly.
I'm actually surprised they wouldn't play. That's how I think ridiculous. And if I was a player, I'd be. I mean, I know you're young and you want to play, but I mean, I would never blame a player for being you know what? I don't have a contract right now. God forbid I get hurt and my career is ruined after Johnny Hockey's got potential to probably make, north of $30, $40 million, $50 million in his career. I mean,
I really don't understand what the holdup is between him and Calgary. It sounds like Calgary wants him to be making Sean Monahan money, but he's better than Sean Monahan, so you'd think he'd be making more money.
He got what, 6?
Yeah, he got 6, and they want to give Gaudreau 6.5. I don't really understand the holdup with him. Trouba, I don't really get either, although the Jets are fairly close to capped out. Kucherov, they're a team that's close to capped out. The Ducks with Lindholm too, that really doesn't bode well for the Ducks situation, because they not only have the salary cap to deal with, they have an internal salary cap, and they're right up against it. I think Ristolainen gets done, Orlov too, but I think honestly arguably the 4 biggest names are the ones that are the most concerning. Kucherov and Lindholm are a little bit of head scratchers, but Johnny Gaudreau by far the biggest shocker. Lindholm even said he's a bit shocked that he's allowed to play in an NHLPA sanctioned event. He told Puck Daddy, maybe a little bit surprised, but I can't do much more than play hockey and focus on my stuff. And then whenever they want me to get signed, I'll get signed. I can't push them to make those moves. They have to make them themselves. It's out of my hands and out of my control. So that's nothing I'm focusing on. Connell, no NHL team will give any of these guys an offer sheet.
Cowards.
Which team should give these guys an offer sheet and why?
I think you got to look at teams who, first off, can realistically do it, obviously. So, and teams that have money to spend, but also have draft picks they haven't traded away. You look at the teams that are possibly rebuilding, okay? Look at a team, as we talked about, who are getting a lot of reps in this tournament because of Twitter. Look at a team like Columbus, for example, who doesn't necessarily have a lot of top-end talent, has been in this mediocre not rebuild for a while now. They've had injuries like that. A team like Columbus could be looking at them. A team, if they wanted to, I know they have a zillion draft picks. A team like Carolina could do something like this. A lot of money to spend, young and up-and-coming teams like this. I think those are the teams you got to be looking to do it. If it was a more experienced team, honestly, who could be making some flashes and that are more capable of winning now, so to speak, I don't know if I see it as that much happening as realistic, I guess you could say. But any team that has low salary cap, has the draft picks, I don't understand why it doesn't happen as more often than it does. That's
the Flames have enough space to add Johnny Gaudreau with what he wants right now. They have 21 players signed, and they have $8.5 million in cap space. They got enough money for him. I mean, you mentioned Carolina. They have 23 players signed, but they have $16 million in cap space.
Easily could do it.
Why? I don't know why they're not doing it. I don't know their draft pick situation. Team like the Devils too. I mean, they have
Devils that's a great choice. I think
they have 5 defensemen signed. Like, why don't they throw $7 million a year?
The Devils can't hurt their PR because we know the Devils have blackmail on everybody. Clearly, nothing the Devils do is ever going to be wrong.
Even without Lou. Like, Lou left the secret photos of every NHL GM in compromising positions. He left those in New Jersey. Ray Sherrill found them one night. He drunkenly stumbled into his office and found them. And that's how he got Taylor Hall, apparently. I mean, a lot of these teams have the space to do it. I wonder what's taking so long. And then, you have a team like Anaheim, too. They haven't even signed Richard Raquel as well as Hampus Lindholm. And they're right up against their internal cap, and they don't have 12 forwards signed. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I don't think any of them will get offer sheeted. They all should get offer sheeted, though, because Carolina should just offer sheet them one at a time.
All right, dude, if I was Carolina, I mean, what's the risk? It's like, all right, you'll lose, a guy like that. I think you'll lose a first, a second, and a third-round pick.
I'd do that for Johnny Gaudreau.
Johnny Hockey or Kucherov or any of those guys, 100% I'd do that. Why wouldn't you do that? I mean, those guys are a sure thing. You know what you're getting. You might have 3 bust out of those picks. I mean, if you had one, top 9 guy out of those 3 picks, you'd probably take that. You know what I mean? So why not get a top line guy? I don't know why more teams don't do it. The last real big one was probably Shea Weber when the Flyers did it, and then
TBT.
Yeah, so teams are scared to do it. I think they're scared of the reps, to be honest. Which at that point you should just get rid of it. I mean, you should almost just get rid of.
Why does it keep coming back into the collective bargaining agreement? That's what I don't understand.
Wanting it, but no one uses it.
Like I get that I think it's a player thing because the players want to have like a chance at movement. But honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if all the GMs had just agreed, like, we're not going to use offer sheets because we don't want to lose our young talent, and that's not fair. And everybody shook hands on it, which would, be collusion and be fraudulent. But I wouldn't be surprised.
No, I'm with you. I wish more teams would do it. I said a team like Carolina is going to jump at me. Columbus jumps at me. Teams like that who need some more talent in their system, who are kind of rebuilding to an extent. I'd love to see somebody like that do it. I mean, or are teams who refuse to trade with each other to begin, I granted Vancouver's a bad example because they don't have the cap space, but a team like that, why wouldn't they try to screw over their closest rivals?
Why wouldn't Edmonton? They're never going to trade with
Edmonton. Exactly. There's another great example.
They're never going to trade with the Flames anyway. Who cares?
Yeah, exactly. So you might as well just troll them.
Although they did trade Vladislav Speed. The 2 teams did trade him a couple of years ago. That was weird. But I agree. I mean, if we were NHL GMs, we'd use offer sheets all the time and wouldn't care if it ruined relationships.
No, I don't care. I mean, I would troll everybody if I was an NHL GM, dude. It would be The absolute anarchy.
You'd have no draft picks left.
No.
You would have offer sheeted every top player in the NHL.
Yeah, dude. I would just build the U23 team basically as my roster.
It's not bad. I do love looking at the cap hits of all the teams in the World Cup, and they're all pretty absurd, but some are a little more manageable than others. Any parting thoughts before we part ways before the semifinal round?
Not too much here. I hope everybody enjoys it. And yeah, I mean, go watch North America run training, everybody. It's going to be fun.
I agree. I hope you've all enjoyed the shot of my unmade bed behind me. I hope that's added a little aesthetic, as well as the photo of me playing lacrosse over my shoulder. I hope you've all enjoyed the personal look into Marcus White's life. But unfortunately, we got to sign off. Connell, this was a blast. We got to do it again soon. And we're going to be doing these a lot more. We're going to try and do these all throughout the season as much as we can. Might not be once a week. Ideally, it'll be once a week. But keep posted on our social media pages that I'm sure you're all following intently. Any final parting words? Any words of wisdom on this wonderful Thursday?
Wonderful Thursday. Everybody enjoy the weekend. All right, Marcus, I'm just going to throw this out as a hint right now.
Yes.
I have not cut Ralph Cox in over 2 months, almost 2 months.
Oh, and you're going to a wedding this weekend.
I'm going to a wedding this weekend. Saturday night, folks, keep your eyes open. We could have some good stuff coming. Could have
my advice, Connell, is don't get fired.
Don't get fired. That's good.
Don't get fired. Thanks, guys. We'll see you soon.